am happy to say that I am here today with one of my good friends, Ethan Birch. And Ethan is also known as, now that almost sounds criminal, a.k.a. 6'8".
Yep.
Now, I know you were not called 6'8" when you were a kid.
No.
Because you were not 6'8" when you were a kid.
No.
So we're going to start out with the obvious and say, why is it that people call you 6'8"? You could demonstrate that for us if you want.
I was in college, and a thing that they did, that they still do, if they see somebody that is exceptionally tall, they automatically give him the nickname 6'9". And there were 2 6'9s. There were 2 like really tall individuals that were there at the same time, and we were both referred to as 6'9". And then there was an event where it was confusing. So George Skinner, friend I had way back in the day, he said, "Wait a minute." He said, "Let's get this together." He said, "How tall are you?" And he said he was 6'9". And he asked me, he said, "How tall are you?" He said, I told him I was 6'8". He said, "Well, that solves it right there. He's 6'9", he's 6'8". And ever since then, I've been 6'8".
Well, I'm glad that they didn't do that when I went to college, because it would be embarrassing to go around for my whole life and be called 5'9".
Why?
5'9".
That's good. That's a good thing.
No, it's like call me short stuff. Well, especially when I stand up next to you, and I'm like, because one of the things that I said in the and you know, I'm full of like really rotten jokes, but I said this is a man that I have always looked up to, and I gave that as a hint. So I'm hoping somebody picked up on the fact that this is a man that I have no choice but to look up to you.
And it got it helped out so much, especially with the kids.
Absolutely. I had the privilege of meeting 6'8", and it actually took me a long while to learn your real name. But Ethan used to perform as a rapper for a long time. At schools here in the Fort Wayne area and really all over the country. But I met him through my assistant principal, Shauna Schaefer, who said, "Look, we've got this guy lined up to come to the school, and he's a rapper." And she said, "You might have heard his song, Pull Your Pants Up." And I said, "Yeah, I've heard that song." I said, "You mean he's coming here to the school?" And she said, "Yeah, and the kids absolutely love him." And I said, "He's coming here to our school." And she said, "Yeah, I'll introduce you to him because he's a good friend of mine." And I said, "Oh my word!" And I'm like, I'm kind of starstruck, you know. It's one of those things, you know, that I'm like, wow, it doesn't get any cooler than that. So that was the first time I ever met you, and then you over the years, the whole time that I was principal there in Fort Wayne, you came back. I can't even tell you how many times you came back. And
Lincoln was one of the favorites. Wow. Easy.
You were such an encouragement to our kids over and over and over because you had such a positive message. There was nothing negative, nothing at all.
Ever.
And you never yelled at, you didn't have to yell at our kids. You said, "You guys can do this." That's what you kept. Your message was overwhelmingly positive. You guys have it in you. You have what you need to be great. And when 6'8" said it, they believed it.
Yes. When
Dr. Schaefer said it, it's like, oh, you're supposed to say that.
Right.
No, but when 6'8", it's like God spoke to me. Yeah. And that's what it was.
It's different with that mentality if they hear it from a rapper.
Yeah.
It takes a different tone. Sometimes, we didn't get through to everybody because remember I know. Talk to the troubled ones but a lot of them.
And those troubled boys especially, they said, "This is a guy I'm going to listen to because for whatever reason, there's something about you that every kid just says, I'm going to listen to him." Well, I don't know. What is that?
It's the presence. I was blessed with what my father had, my biological father had, and he had a very commanding presence. He was a captain on the police force, and he had that big booming voice. He was 6'6", and everywhere he went, you couldn't help but notice him, and he carried himself like that, and he spoke like that. And it's they say speak softly, carry a big stick. Well, I spoke loudly. I had a big stick, but I also spoke loudly.
So, were you always into music?
I was. I just started out, my mom got me into musical theater when I was very young.
Really?
And I don't know if you're familiar with Enchanted Hills Playhouse in Syracuse or Wagon Wheel in Warsaw.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
She would take me there. And I would do productions during the summer at those places, and that's when.
Now, there is probably not one thing in the world you could have ever told me that would surprise me more than that.
Really?
Yeah.
Why is that?
Okay. Never in the whole world would I have ever expected to hear from you that you did musical theater.
Yes, absolutely.
That does not fit the profile of any other rapper that I've ever heard of.
I was Professor Harold Hill in The Music Man.
Oh my word, that is so cool.
Yes.
And it's the geek in me that knows who Professor Harold Hill is.
Yes.
Yeah. That is so outstanding. That is the coolest thing.
Yes, sure as the Lord made little green apples, and that band's going to be in uniform.
Oh, man. I never would have guessed that.
Yeah, and I loved it. And that's where I fell in love with performing. And, the rap music wasn't even a thing back then. And then that came in, and I fell in love with that, So, yeah, how could I bridge the gap? And I just wanted to do the popular rap right up until I got sick and flatlined, and then I went on a different mission.
Wow. So did you ever do rock music?
Yes, we were in in late elementary, middle school, high school. We were there. We had a couple bands that we tried to start.
Who were your influences then?
I was into Van Halen.
Oh yeah.
Back then. And not the Sammy Hagar, the David Lee Roth one. Yeah. And you see, I grew up around everything. Believe it or not, I was probably even more into country than I was rock. Do you remember Don Williams?
Oh yeah.
My dad listened to Don Williams, and I loved it. I loved it.
Wow.
And my mom was into classical. My sister, my older sister, she's 13 years older than I am. She was into pop. She was in Billy Joel.
Oh yeah.
And she did Queen was really big at that time. So I got everything.
That's pretty amazing. That really is amazing.
Real big music fan. Still am. There's not like a single genre of music, as long as it's not irritating, kind of like a lot of the new hip hop that's out right now, but there's not much that I can't listen to and enjoy.
That's cool. And then you got started in rap.
Yes.
So who were your big influences in rap?
Man, the ones that really started it off, especially for me, Houdini. I don't know if you remember them. They had a song called One Love. And that got pretty popular. Curtis Blow, who a lot of people say that when they hear my music, they hear him in there. Grandmaster Flash and the Furious Five, and a lot of the first pioneers that when they first came out, I knew instantly. I'm like, I want to do that.
But then something happened. And you became the guy who went into schools, and you inspired thousands of school kids. literally thousands of school kids
Yes.
to be at their best and to perform at their best, not just on some test, but to be at their own personal best.
Yes, absolutely.
And not to give in to peer pressure, not to give up, but to be themselves, be their best selves.
Right.
What caused that? And where did that come from?
I flatlined.
Tell me about that.
I died. They found a tumor-like cyst in my abdomen, and before...
And how old were you?
This would have been in 2005. So, let's say 30.
Okay.
You know, close in that area. And they told me that I had probably, you know, they told me when I came to, they told me I flatlined. They had to keep me open for as long as they possibly could because I had so much poison in my system. I had 14 tubes going in and out of my body trying to get this poison out of my system. The recuperation process behind that was incredible. And they basically told me, yeah, if I made it like 12 months, they would be surprised. Wow. And when that happened, you know, my kids at the time were 6 and 2, I think. And I try to think back to what I remembered when I was 6 and 2, and it was nothing. So, you know, if I wasn't going to be here, I needed to leave something that my kids could remember me by. And I always had rap as the hobby. And I wasn't going to give them any dirty rap. I wasn't going to give them any nasty rap. I was going to give them stuff that, you know, they could actually learn from and, you know, be good people with and what have you. And so lying in my hospital bed, I was in the hospital for weeks after that. And I just wrote song after song after song. And then as I started to get better and I got home, I would start to piece it together and I would put it to music, and then I would record some here, record some there, and then I had a few songs on a CD, and that's when my oldest son, Davion, who's 24 now.
I can't believe he's 24.
24 and 6'10".
Wow.
But
I can't believe he's 6'10".
Yeah, he was going when he was only 2.5 feet tall. He was going to Fairfield Elementary.
Wow.
And I gave him the CD, you know, with 3 songs on it to take to his class. Well, the teacher was blown away by the songs that were on it, and she showed it to Mrs. Sherry Britt. And Sherry Britt said, hey, everybody needs to hear this. And she said, would you be willing to perform these songs for the whole school? And I said,
and that's what started it all.
Boom.
Wow.
Boom. And it was her that said, I had already been to Fairfield like 2 or 3 times with presentations. And she said, is there any way possible you can make a song about the kids hanging their pants off their backside?
Oh, my word.
And
that is so cool.
And I said, I think I can do that. And I went to Jay Ray. I said, she wants me to make this song. And he said, I think I got a beat for that.
Now, tell me more about Jay Ray, because I met him a couple times, but what's his relationship to you?
I had all, you know, just like, you know, I don't know if you know, I did the Dance Moms thing.
Yeah, oh yeah.
I was on the show Dance Moms, and I've always like emceed dance recitals and productions and things like that. And on my CD, when I first started making the music, I was given a CD of these beats. You know, like, you know, hey, use these. Well, I'm playing this music at one of these recitals, and this guy comes backstage and said, hey, that's my beat. Like, what? But that was how we met, and we instantly clicked. And
that's cool.
Even though I only had those 3 beats, he gave me so much more, including the Pull Your Pants Up beat, which
that's cool.
Yeah, that started our relationship right there, and it was only because I was emceeing the dance recital that his daughter was performing in.
Oh my word! So Pull Your Pants Up was your first big one, right?
That was the first big. That was definitely not the first song, but it was the one that definitely put us on. It's the one that got us on the national news.
Yeah, that's the first one I heard of yours too, and I heard that when I was a principal in Marion.
Mm-hmm. Oh, really? You weren't at Lincoln yet?
No.
Okay.
No, I heard it in Marion because of Federa Smith.
Yes.
And that's where I heard it from her. And then you wrote the I Step rap.
Yes.
And then the one that I love the most, and you know this, is, and I'm going to post this along with this interview, was when you came to Lincoln and you recorded this incredible song that we loved so much about bullying.
Mm-hmm.
And you had fun with it. Our whole school had fun with it.
Yes.
And I still think that is one of the most needed songs today.
Hey, I had no clue. How much of a situation that bullying actually was building into when we first came out with that. And people latched onto it really quick.
Yeah, and that was fun. Our teachers loved that. The students loved that. And I still hear, I mean, anytime, if I see kids from that time at Lincoln, they still talk about, hey, remember when we made that video with 6'8"?
Absolutely.
And they still talk about that.
Yes,
so that was fun.
I'll be in Lowe's. I'll be checking out in Lowe's. And the person behind the register, you came to my school. You came to Lincoln. And I'm like, oh my goodness. She's like, yeah, I still play your music for my daughter. And I'm like, that CD still plays? I'll have to get you another one. But no.
Yeah, that's great. Now let's talk about reading, because that's what this is all about.
Mm-hmm.
And when we had book club for boys at Lincoln, and I used to bring in speakers to come in and talk to the boys. And one of the rules that the boys had made for the book club was that no girls were allowed. And that was, it was kind of like Spanky in our gang, and all that kind of thing. And so I thought, hey, all of our kids at Lincoln Elementary loved 6'8". Mm-hmm. And whenever we had you for a concert, they were so excited.
Yes.
So I had to sneak you in to the school because,
which is not easy.
No, it's not easy because you're a hard person to hide.
Right.
So we had you come in through the gym door because that's where we always held the boys' book club, and boys were all seated around the circle. We had about 100, and you talked about books that had influenced you when you were growing up. And I don't know if you remember. I remember what you talked about.
Okay.
You said it was a book about Malcolm X.
Yes.
And you talked about how much that had influenced you, and then you sneaked out, and the boys did their. Well, you stayed while the boys talked about their books, because that was what they did. We would have a speaker for a couple minutes.
Right.
Then the boys talked about the books they were reading, and then you sneaked out. And the other rule of book club was, you don't talk about what happens at book club. The boys never told the girls, because the 4th and 5th grade boys left from book club and went directly to lunch. Somebody slipped.
Uh-oh.
And this is the part, I don't know if I ever told you this. Somebody slipped. And the 4th grade sat on this side of the lunchroom. 5th grade's on this side. And I always worked 4th and 5th grade lunch. And I noticed that there was, a whole lot of talking. Like, it was getting louder and louder. It started over here on the 4th grade side. And it was like it spread all the way across. And within about 3 minutes of them getting there, a 5th grade girl jumped up and came running over to me, and she said, "Why didn't you tell us 6'8" was here?" And I said, "I don't know what you're talking about." Because that was the rule of book club. We don't talk about what happens at book club. So that was our secret. The boys were looking at me, is he going to tell?
Right.
And I said, I don't know what you're talking about. Right. But, so tell us about that book, the book about Malcolm X. Why did that influence you so much?
El-Haj Malik, I was a screw-up.
No.
Yes. Yes, I was not always a motivational speaker. I was, if there was a way to creatively get into trouble, I figured it out. And I got into a lot. I wound up getting into a lot of trouble. And my mother, God bless her, she would always get me involved with things that at first, I wasn't really, just like theater. I didn't want to do it. But once I started doing it, I really got into it. Mom tried to get me into books. I wasn't a big reader. But once she found books that she knew would actually, hold my attention, it was a whole new ball game. I was reading at my mom always tells me that everybody that came around, was always amazed at my reading level. At my age, I was reading like adult level books at 5, and
because it interested you.
Yes, and I had no clue how what it was doing to my brain. A lot of people don't understand what reading does to the brain. And it's a big reason why I made that song, why I had such a big platform on reading. But that book right there made me realize that I actually could go from being a screw up to being somebody that people respected. Because my big thing was respect. I felt like nobody respected me, and honestly, I didn't do anything that deserved respect. But when I read that book, Mom will tell you something changed in me, something snapped. And not only does it have to do with, the person that's being written about, it has to do with the author.
That's true.
The way that the author spins a story is how it gets you locked in. And that's what people have to understand. You can read 2-3 books and they'll be like, oh, okay, that was pretty interesting. But once you read that one that you cannot put down,
that's it. That's the one.
You have to go do something, and then after you get done, the only thing you're thinking about is getting back to that book.
I got to get back to that book.
And figure, once you finally get that book, then you're like, oh, I get it now. Yeah. And at the same time, you don't even know how much stronger.
Right. That's exactly right.
You're making your brain, and you'll remember in the presentations. Yeah. I didn't care what it was. I said if it was a cereal box.
Yeah, that's true.
Just read 30 minutes a day.
That's a huge thing, Ethan, because the thing that I always tell parents, they say, well, I'm concerned because my son doesn't want to read good books. And I said, tell me what a good book is.
Right.
I said, and they say, well, the books like the classics or
that's not a good book to him.
I said, if it doesn't interest him, it's not a good book. A good book to me is a book that a kid wants to read.
Absolutely.
Or I grew up reading cereal boxes.
Yeah.
When I was sitting eating my cereal in the morning. In fact, my brothers and I had 3 brothers, and we would fight over the cereal box. And it didn't matter how many times we read the same box of cereal. Right. Because we all wanted to read it.
Right.
And it didn't matter what we were reading. We wanted to read anything. And we would read. From the time I was a kid, I read the newspaper. You know why I read the newspaper? Because my dad, every night, read the newspaper. Yeah. Now, my dad had this rule with the newspaper that he wanted to be the first one to read it. Yeah. But the problem was the newspaper got there about 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And my dad didn't get home yet. So I would read the newspaper and very carefully put it back together so it didn't look like it had been opened, and roll that sucker up so that it looked like it had not been touched. And I'd put it where it was supposed to be, and I would read it before he got home because I wanted to read that. And to this day, I always look at the newspaper. It's one of the first things that I do.
Dad would bring the newspaper in the house, and I loved it because on Sunday, no matter what I was doing, he'd always plop that comic section down in my lap, and
nothing better than the comics.
No, it was awesome to me, and it's all about it's all about, plugging in the mentality that it's, that it's fun, that it can be fun, because we are so, in this day and age, we are so, digital, and everything has to be here and now, and none of these young people, on a tablet, it's great.
Oh yeah.
Especially if you can get a kid to focus on a tablet for that long without switching to something else, because it's so easy to do. You got a book, that's the only thing you can do.
That's exactly right.
And I
still love the books, and I show you this. This is one of my favorite authors, and I interviewed him on the website, Jonathan Mayberry, and he just sent me this book, which is
awesome.
I'm like, all right, this is so cool. And he autographed it, and he put in the front, he said, "To Michael, join the hunt, Jonathan Mayberry." And I'm like, oh, this is cool.
Yeah.
I have an autographed book by this guy. This guy has gotten hundreds of boys to read because he writes about some of the grossest stuff you will ever read. I mean, it's zombies and all that kind of stuff. And boys love these books.
Yeah.
Because it's the stuff they want to. They see themselves in here. Because, face it, almost, I bet you most teenage boys, when this COVID stuff started going, somewhere in the back of their mind thought, this is the beginning of the zombie apocalypse.
Yeah, well, there wasn't just kids that was thinking that.
I know. I kept thinking it. I'm thinking, the CDC is for years has had this thing, and it's still on the CDC website right now, how to prepare for the zombie apocalypse. And I'm thinking, this is it. When they start giving the COVID shots out, everybody's going zombie. All right, I'm a college professor.
Yeah.
I know it's not going to happen. I've had my shot.
Right.
I had both. I'm still not. I'm not a zombie, but you have to wonder.
Right. Right. And there's so many. I mean, I have anti-vaxxers living with me. So, I mean, I get it. And at the same time, if you are someone that says you can't fall for, the stuff that they say, but then you don't get the vaccination.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, geez, you got to know.
Yeah, I know. So, give me some advice that I can share with parents about what you were talking about a few minutes ago. You said when your mom, when she was helping you, she was years ahead of time. You know that.
Yes, absolutely.
Now, she knew that she had to get your interest in order to get you to read. Mm-hmm. So, how did she know how to do that?
By showing me things that would actually interest me. It's the same thing. It's funny that you say that with him getting the boys to read because of the gross stuff.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
How in my world, my thought was, how can I get my kids to be, when everything out there is just basically, forget school. Oh, yeah. You don't need school. Yeah. You can make this money doing this. How can I get them to think that school is cool? Yeah. Of course, the coolest thing out at the time was rap music. Yeah. And how can I combine school and rap? And that was the that was the thing. That was like Miss Britt. That's what she said. How can you do that? And I said, I think we can do it. And one of the first ones that I came out with was geography. And I was able to put all 50 states alphabetically in a song. And it was so easy for me. And the fact that people hear that song and they're like, their mind is blown. Oh my God, how'd you do it? And you did it alphabetically and everything rhymes. And I wrote that song in probably 10 minutes.
Oh my word.
And, but, cause I mean, it came natural to me, it was, it's what I did. And I had a ton of fun doing it. And once I found out that grades were going through the roof and bullies weren't bullying anymore. Yeah. And look, I'm getting goosebumps right now just thinking about it. The impact.
Yeah, that's the thing. When you realize that your life matters.
Yeah.
And Ethan, that's the thing that I think is so cool, because you can look back right now and you know you made a difference. You continue to make a difference. You know what's cool is, I don't know how many people are going to see this video, but a bunch of people are going to watch this.
Right.
And a bunch of your kids, all your Lincoln kids that see this, they're going to say, hey, I was a part of that. I was part of that video.
Yes.
And part of the reason I did well was because of Ethan Birch.